Hello, welcome everyone to another FPL video. My name is Mo and today I'll be talking about the player watch list for Game Week 19. So what we're going to look into is players for you to look out for who are in good form, we should look to bring into our squads, players we should look to avoid, or players that are in your squads that are not performing to the mark that you're looking for them to do, and are there better potentials out there for you to look for in terms of those positions to A, score more points, and B, use those funds in excess if you are spending elsewhere in your squad to make it stronger during this period where A, it's back-to-back fixtures, and B, you just don't know when a game will be cancelled. So we'll go through all of that. I've identified some players, in my opinion, who you should be considering for maybe short term, maybe in the longer term, and based on the fact that they have some good underlying stats, form, fixtures, everything, we'll go through in analysis with XG and XA stats as well, which will be expected goals and expected assists. So before we get into all that, if you guys haven't liked the video, give us a like. And if you haven't subscribed to FPL INKLING, guess what guys, we're almost at the 1k mark. If you're new around here or you've been here before and you haven't done it already, hit that subscribe button and let's get to that 1k before the new year itself. So who have I identified at number 1 is Kevin De Bruyne. So this is one player that for sure, myself included, I know that most FPL managers this season, in comparison to the last few seasons, we certainly have overlooked. There's a couple of reasons. A, he's not nailed on for penalties. B, he's priced at 12 mil, which I think is a mil too much for him. 11 mil, 10.5 mil like last season I thought was a fair price. But he has been injury hit this season, but we're starting to see shades, I'd say, of the old Kevin De Bruyne. I still think there's more to come from him, but what I have seen in the last couple of game weeks certainly has got me on the edge of my seat thinking, is he a suitable replacement for Salah when he does, or if so, he goes away for the African Cup of Nations. So on screen, as you can see, I put his next 5 game week fixtures. They seem quite reasonable, some difficult games in there, but you got to remember he's a top class player and he does like to get forward. So when he did get eased back in the squad by Guardiola, he was playing a bit more deeper, so he's playing defensively, and Bernardo Silva played ahead. However, in the last 2 game weeks, Bernardo Silva has dropped deeper and Kevin De Bruyne has gone forward in terms of his positioning and play. So that's something really to focus on. Like he is playing a lot more forward than deeper in the last few games, and his stats and his numbers have indeed gone up in terms of his points return. For example, against Leeds, 2 goals and a double-digit return of 16 points. And he's looking more and more threatening and in form as games go along. So he's got Leicester at home, which I think would be a good game. Leicester defensively look very fragile. They don't have their first first choice back line. So there again, he could really exploit them. Brentford away is going to be a tough game, but Brentford have kind of fallen off the edge or the cliff, I'd say, in the last couple of games itself. So potentially could be a nice game there. Arsenal away at the Emirates. Will be a tough game, but he usually likes to come good in big games, including Chelsea as well, and then Southampton. So someone who is worth considering. So we look at his ownership, which is at 3%, so I can go through some stats. Very low ownership, so a really good differential if he does kick off in the next 2 or 3 games. 50 points so far this season, which my favourite stat, which is points per match, equates to 4.25, which is not too bad, but obviously you are investing 12 mil of your budget into this player. So I'd say from now on, I do expect bigger returns, and he could be a vital player or a person to consider to have in your squad to replace Salah when he goes for AFCON, as I mentioned. Expected assists, 0.41, and expected goals, 0.28, which has gone up over the last few game weeks. So if you're looking to get in a Man City midfielder who's more nailed to play, I know it's a lot of budget to invest into. Obviously, considering there are other players out there who might be slightly cheaper with similar output, but Kevin De Bruyne, from a differential aspect, certainly does look like a player worth considering. Now, number 2, we have Son. So the last couple of game weeks we have missed him. They are, I think, 3 games in hand now in terms of what they've missed. But how good did he look against Liverpool? A well-deserved rest. Came out, him and Kane, literally ran the show ahead. So in terms of fixture-wise, yes, it does look really tempting to get him in from this game week because they've got Crystal Palace at home, followed by Southampton, and then Watford in game week 21, and then Arsenal and Chelsea. He always plays good in big games as well. So those 2 games shouldn't be something that puts you off Son because he is a big team player and he does deliver on the big stage as well, and games that you expect him to return as well. At the point of recording this video, he's owned by 16.2% of managers, 88 points so far this season, 6.28 points per match. Staggering stats there. Expected assists 0.14, and from the stats we've got 0.39 for expected assists as well. So Son for me looks nailed on to play, looks fit, looks hungry, can go big in his games. Rotation potentially could be rested for one of the games, I'd say, over the period, but he usually is quite good at turning up for games, even if they are 3 in a week, he does tend to play most of the minutes. So that's why I looked at Son rather than Kane. Kane did get a goal against Liverpool, but if I look at the stats throughout the season so far, Son has outshone Kane this season so far. Now moving on to my third player, Cristiano Ronaldo. So until the games that was cancelled against Watford and then followed by the Brighton game, Ronaldo's ownership went well over 30%. So at the moment it's 26.7 at the time of recording. It's not too bad, but there was a plan that people thought Game Week 16 onwards to 20, we're going to have Cristiano Ronaldo. Now he's had 2 of the games postponed, so they will be rescheduled. Potentially in Game Week 22, I'm hearing. There's no confirmation, but as the days go ahead, we will discuss this more detail when I get a bit more clarity. But they've got Newcastle away, so why not? Newcastle are shipping goals left, right, centre. Potentially look, I'd say, one of the favourites to go down next season, or this season, for next season. So why not bring Cristiano Ronaldo back in after a bit of a rest? Burnley at home, Wolves, Aston Villa, West Ham, all games that he can score in. And so far his stats back that up as well. 67 points, 5.15 points per game, 0.13 assists and 0.73 goals expected from him as well. Per 90. So as you can see, he is a goal scorer. He does like to turn up for the games. So if you are looking for Manchester United assets, we used to look at Bruno originally, but Ronaldo on penalties as well, pretty much nailed to play most games, has a bit of a rest now due to COVID for Manchester United. So let's see, why not we can target him. This is one of the players that I'm looking at personally, and if he's fit and ready to go for that Newcastle game, I will look to bring him into my squad. Another player that's getting overlooked for me is Jarrod Bowen. So yes, I know he did well a couple of game weeks ago, and he's had a few games cancelled, but there's a lot of managers that have kind of jumped away off him. But let's look at his fixtures he's got coming up: Southampton, Watford, Crystal Palace and Leeds. So they're all fixtures that I think that he can do well in. He played really well against Chelsea as well, could have had an extra goal, had a few clear-cut chances as well. And for 6.3 mil, 6.4 mil, I think he's not a bad player at all. You get 90 minutes or pretty much regular starts. Less than 6% owned at the time of recording. 5.8%, 76 points so far this season. He's got 4.47 points per game or per match. So for me, if I'm looking at getting that as an average for a player for 6.5 mil, I think that's a really good choice. Expected assists 0.16 and expected goals 0.35 per 90. So again, with some really good fixtures coming up, West Ham doing really well, exceeding their expectations under David Moyes. Jarrod Bowen for me is going to stick and stay in my squad. So these are all the players that I'm looking at the moment that I've got in my squad or I'm looking to bring in, which I've discussed with you guys. Now, I'm moving on to players that I'm looking to avoid or maybe sell from my team that I do have at present. So I don't own Bernardo Silva myself at the moment, but let's just say if I was to, he has been one of the highest transferred players out in the last 2 game weeks. 29.3% managers own him, but we look at the fixtures below, as we discussed with Kevin De Bruyne, Leicester, Brentford, Arsenal, Chelsea, Southampton. They all look reasonable fixtures for Man City. Now, the issue with Bernardo has been is he's gone a bit deeper than where he was before at the start of the season. He was a bit more offensive and a bit more ahead in terms of the forward line. So he has played a bit more deep in the last couple of games. 93 points so far this season, 5.47 points per match, 0.26 expected assists per 90 and 0.32 expected goals per 90. So for me, he does have good stats, but I believe there are City players with better stats out there. For example, Phil Foden, when he gets the chance, and he's not prohibited to play by Guardiola. But you've also got players like, Gabriel Jesus, who's done well as well when he started. But for me, during this period, I think it's time to move away from Bernardo Silva. Look, he can turn around and score a bag of goals on the weekend against Leicester, but for me, if you had to generally ask me, he's been a bit disappointing in the last few game weeks, and the transfers in and out has kind of reflected that as well. So for me, if you don't have Bernardo Silva, you don't need to jump out to get him in, and if you do have him and you're looking to take him out, I fully understand the reasoning why you are looking to, replace him with an alternative player. If you're looking for alternative players around that price range, Mason Mount's done really well. Maybe upgrade a bit to a Jota if you don't have Jota in your squad. There are players in and around that price that can be considered for you and your squad to make it look, take advantage of form and fixtures that they may have during this period. And last but not least, from my team, the player that I'm looking to, move on from or get rid, who I haven't done so far at the time of recording, but I'm very likely to do so before the deadline stream or the deadline of this game week, because I'm looking to wait for any cancellations. It is Michail Antonio. So fixtures-wise, as we discussed for West Ham for Bowen, they look decent. Can he score in those games? Of course he can. Does it look likely he will? For now, no. Because for me, the last 12 game weeks, he's got 2 returns, and it's quite disappointing as an owner of Antonio that it's let me down so badly. I haven't moved away from him, but his ownership was around 50% of managers, now to about 34.8% at the time of this recording, and that will go further lower if he gets 1 or 2 more game weeks where he does blank, because strikers just really haven't done it this season, and you can tell that from average scores of teams for the last couple of game weeks where most strikers haven't featured due to cancellations. But let's go through some underlying stats for him. 75 points this season, and considering 40 points came in the first 3 game weeks, the next, this game week 19 now, so the next 15 games he was suspended for. The next 14 games, 35 points, that's so disappointing. 4.68 points per match on average this season, 0.26 expected assists per 90, and 0.42 expected goals per 90 minutes this season as well. So he's had a mixed bag of a season. I have a feeling that if I do take him out, he's probably going to get a brace of goals, and I'm going to miss out again, and I'll be upset. But to be fair, I've given him a fair shot. I have no regrets. And if he hasn't performed for me during that period, then that's just my bad luck. And I'm replacing him with someone, who is a goal scorer. And I expect, eventually for them to equal points, if not the player that I'm getting in, which is Cristiano Ronaldo. But certainly for him to outscore him in the next, even if I replace him for the whole season, I do believe Ronaldo will get more points than Antonio. Regardless of fixtures, regardless of anything else, I think the points-wise, he'll get more for me. So I'm probably going to back Ronaldo more than if I was to go down this the Son kind of virtue or the option. But for me, Son will be an option if Salah goes to AFCON. If not, right now it's going to be Ronaldo. I'm not going to replace him immediately because I just feel that Ronaldo will be the best way to move forward. But again, I haven't made this transfer due to one simple reason: cancellations and the whole COVID situation. Otherwise, if this was any other week, for sure Antonio would have been out and Ronaldo would have indeed been in my squad. So you can see Ronaldo's fixtures: Newcastle, Burnley. Newcastle will be fantastic. I mean, it'll be a good decision for me to make. Do I want him as captain or Salah versus Leeds? It's a tight one, but Salah versus Leeds probably edges it for me indeed. So I'll go back to my home screen. This is what my squad looks like for Game Week 19, guys. We've gone through our player watch list, players to look out for, players who I think you should avoid or get rid if you have them in your squads. But again, the best, or the top tip I can give you for this game week: delay your transfers to as late as possible. Yes, I know it's easier said than done. A lot of transfers are being made, price rises are taking place, but we've learnt our lesson from last week. Aston Villa's game got called off literally hours before, or even when I finished my stream, the deadline, they called it off afterwards. So again, it's something that we just have to be patient with. And if you want to take this seriously and you want to play it well, try holding it as long as you can. If you can't, just push it through, and then we can literally just hope for the best. Right, guys, so that's the FPL player watch list for Game Week 19. If you guys haven't liked the video, give us a like. And if you haven't subscribed, why not? Hit that subscribe button, help us get to that 1K mark. We're almost there. Let's get there before the new year. Join the FPL INKLING League. The code is below my screen at the moment. And if you have any questions, type it into the questions box or contact me on any of my social media to let me know how I can do on Twitter, Instagram, and here on YouTube as well. I want you guys to take care, enjoy your Christmas, and I'll see you soon with some more content and live streams. But if you haven't subscribed, hit that sub button and be part of the family to get latest notifications. Take care. See you soon.